Ever dreamt of being a serial entrepreneur with an impressive exit rate? Buckle up because our guest today, Liam McCain, has done just that 4 times. Liam's the co-founder and chief creative officer of Habitto, a FinTech company on a mission to banish financial anxiety for young Japanese. They offer the best interest rates and free financial advice because, let's face it, sometimes the biggest hurdle is just knowing where to begin. But here's the kicker. With 4 daughters, Liam's practically a Taylor Swift expert. So how does a guy who struggles with languages navigate the world of FinTech? And why does he think embracing ignorance is actually a good thing for founders? Let's find out.
Okay, so why do I think founders should embrace ignorance? Ignorance or inexperience in a sector, I think, can be a great asset to a new or repeat founder. Ironically, I think it's taken me 20 years to work that out, and I guess you can always connect the dots looking backwards. But I think that I've worked out there's 3 things that I see as being a benefit. Without that previous baggage, without that experience in the sector, you come in with fresh ideas. You come in and also you act as a sponge. You want to run faster, you need to learn faster, and typically it makes you run faster. There's also a connectivity between them, and you'll find that the disparate experiences you have, there's a definite connection between those. But I didn't really always feel this way about an experience and sort of go on new ventures. Actually, for the first 18 years of my life, I was an aviation geek. I knew everything there was to know about aircraft, and as soon as I could legally get into a plane, I went and got my license. And I went and joined the Army, and then I joined the Royal Navy, and it didn't work out. I didn't get a seat. I didn't become a pilot. And so after that, I had to start out, I guess, without a clear direction, without a strategy about where I'd go. So starting on this path, I ended up working in ad agencies. And ad agencies are no longer, I guess, as fashionable for young people to go join as they were then. But I still think that agencies and consultancies give this great grounding in this idea that you have to bring innovation or ideas to a sector where you don't have expertise, and most importantly, under a deadline, and repeat it. So I worked in agencies for a while, and you build a muscle. In doing that, you start to build a muscle about how to bring ideas to a sector where you don't have experience. And I kind of got a sense that agencies were changing. I felt digital coming, and I had the opportunity to go leave and join another big agency and take a more senior role. But instead, I chose to do something which I was a bit unsure about, and I joined a word-of-mouth marketing agency. I partnered with another guy, and we built a word-of-mouth marketing agency. Now, no one in the industry and myself really knew what that meant, right? But we're an agency trying to bring different innovation to the sector. I couldn't have predicted it, but the social media wave came as part of that period, and we soon became a social media agency, and then we became the largest in Southeast Asia, and ultimately we sold the business to a big global agency group. So this is where I over-indexed in arrogance and not ignorance, because I thought I was very clever. I was 31, I bought a city sports car, and I thought that success would continue to come to me. And I thought that success would be repeatable. And I didn't push myself, I didn't try new things, I thought I would just be able to replicate what I'd done before. Soon after this, I think this was the only asset I had left. So the first sort of exit was quickly paid out from there. So I needed to do something really different and push myself again. And I ended up here. And this is a central Java in Indonesia, and it's an organic vegetable farm. This is the first Indonesian vegetable farmers that achieved an EU organic certification. And so with my brother, who was a chef, and so he knew a little bit about farming and food, but I knew nothing, we built an e-commerce business focused on bringing these organics into Singapore and Hong Kong. And it was fun. It was super fun. And I learned so much because I didn't know really much about farming, and despite being Australian, I lived in a city. And I didn't know about how to build a short film. I didn't know how to market through content. And so all of those things I learned. With this sort of new confidence and this ability to go push myself, I started a tech business in Sri Lanka. a software engineering business in Sri Lanka. And we soon partnered into building a Visa prepaid card for parents and teens in Singapore. And this is where the connectivity comes in, because the same audience that we were marketing to for organic vegetables was mums and kids. And the same audience was true of this Visa card. The Visa card business, the prepaid card business, was then acquired by a life insurer in Singapore. And through that, I decided to join this life insurer. The company it was called Sing Life, and it was founded by this amazing founder who's been on this stage in Singapore, Walter Derder. And he was interesting because he'd had this big job in finance, big CEO job, thrown it all away to start a new company, start a life insurance company and try to build something different. But he understood that he needed to bring experience from outside the sector to do that. So in fact, he used to introduce me as, this is Liam, our CMO, he doesn't know shit about life insurance. And that was his introduction, which was a positive. And soon we were able to bring new things to that sector. This is us here launching the debit card globally that was connected to an insurance product. And we're able to bring in Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians and try and get him to talk about not being so crazy rich and pitch this. This business grew really rapidly and went through a transaction and a merger and was recently acquired by Sumitomo Life from Japan for about $4 billion. So following the transaction, the opportunity came up to come to Japan, and we had the opportunity to come build Habitto here. I hadn't worked in Japan. I hadn't really had any experience in Japan, but I knew I had that muscle. I knew I had that idea about how I could come in and act like a sponge. So we came to Japan. It hasn't been easy by any stretch. That doesn't mean it hasn't been challenging. It's certainly been challenging. We built a team here. We've built a product. We've got licensed recently, as I said. But I found out, I guess, in Japan, particularly this approach, so not only in finance, but in Japan, it isn't necessarily the norm to approach something with inexperience. In my experience of Japanese, they turn up ultra ready. They're very prepared. I met with one of the incubators, one of the global incubators, and they talked about the applications for incubees into the program in Japan. They get far less applications in Japan, but the quality and the level of detail is a full-blown business plan trying to get into there. So what am I actually trying to say about ignorance? I'm not suggesting that we could all go in and become a brain surgeon next, but I think there is three areas where I think it benefits an entrepreneur going into a new sector. Not having that baggage makes you willing to try new things. It makes you willing to not necessarily think about the failures or the efforts that have been made before to go try new things. The second is this idea that you run faster, and that this fear and uncertainty and unknowing, I guess, of a sector makes you run faster. And the one that I mentioned earlier is connection. This idea that you will find transferable value and you'll be able to connect those pieces. So in short, I guess if you're an investor or an employer and someone's looking to be backed and they don't have experience in a sector, I would say, if they have commitment to that idea, they can believe they can add value, then back them. And if you're an entrepreneur that's thinking about starting a business in a sector where you don't have experience, then I'd really encourage you to do it. Because if nothing else, even if it doesn't work out like the 4 that didn't work out, you will learn a great deal, and that learning will be transferable to other businesses or your future career. Thank you.